Hello, welcome to this week's edition of WCS Sports Connection. I'm your co-host, Jeremy Qualls, and with me as always is the resident expert of all sports, Tate Mathews. Tate, 21 days left to go for the school season, for the school year. Athletic seasons are coming to an end. We are in the thick of it. We've got tournaments coming up this week, man. A lot of action happening, everything coming to the head. What do you think right now, baseball-wise? Who's going to win this thing?
Tough race. The great thing for Brentwood is they know they're moving on. So kind of hard to – I don't know what kind of hand Coach Moore will play in this thing. Do you play to win the tournament? Do you rest maybe some of your arms? I mean, they want to win every game, but you also have to be smart about that with your pitching. So they know they're moving on. So that kind of makes this thing a little bit different. But, you look at Independence finished hot. They were kind of the team, had a little bit of a lull in the middle of the season, and then they finished off the season with a sweep over Franklin, had a big win over CPA on Friday or Saturday, I believe it was Friday, who just ended the 46-game win streak of Spring Hill. So Independence finished very hot. Maybe starting to look a little bit about like the basketball season. Started off hot, got cold in the middle, finished off hot again, and we know what they did in the baseball season. So that being said, are you asking me to pick, or were you just –
We'll get to that.
Okay.
We'll get to that. He's referencing the way this tournament is laid out right now. Brentwood, in their bylaws, in 11 AAA, if, when you win the regular season, you get the bye automatic punch, your card, your ticket into the region. Now,
Right.
Everybody else is playing for one spot. If regardless if Brentwood loses or not, they're moving on. Now, here's an interesting nugget. Summit last year was the first team in 10 years in 11 AAA to win the regular season and also win the tournament.
That's right.
So the
history says
right.
Brentwood's fighting an uphill battle.
That's correct. And everybody will, there's some strategy played in that. You mentioned, are we going to pitch our best here? Are we going to try to get some rest? How are we going to, keep things going? But there will be that second team. And the million-dollar question is, who is going to be that second team? We have some interesting parodies coming into this thing. Look at Centennial right now. Coach Boffman's group is 12-14, 8-10 in 11 AAA. They beat Mount Juliet 10-0. Now Mount Juliet is one of the favorites on the other side to make a run.
That's right, and that's what we talked about earlier in the year. Coach Boffman's teams, even when they're right there around 500, there's two teams that always seem to play well in this tournament, and that's Teddy Craig's Ravenwood Raptors and Centennial's. Coach Boffman's Centennial Cougars. They always seem to play spoiler. There was a time when Mount Juliet, I believe, was ranked number 1 in AAA. If not, they were in the top 3, all the way up to either number 2 or number 3. So that's a great win for them, and they always seem to pick somebody off in this tournament. They've got 2 guys on the mound that are going on to play college ball. So, yeah, I would think they're poised to make a nice run in this tournament.
Well, the tournament begins this upcoming Saturday. There'll be 3 games then. 3 games on Sunday, double elimination. All games will be at Brentwood High School. There'll be some great baseball played. Brentwood right now, Coach Moore's group's 23-7, 14-4 in a District 11 AAA. They've won 5 in a row. They're coming in hot. Can they keep this streak and get things going?
Yeah, I think so. I think most people that have watched 11 AAA baseball will tell you they're the most balanced team top to bottom when you're talking about arms and bats and defense in the field. So, yeah, I think they can keep it going. And it's kind of like when we used to look at the basketball records in 11 AAA on the boys' side last year. You look at their record, they're 23-7. Anytime you get over 20 wins, that's a good thing. 23-7, 4 of those 7 losses are district losses. So, sounds like a broken record, but that's how tough this district is. But, yeah, I think they got a really good chance to make it. I guess one thing they do have to play for, now that I think about it after I said that earlier on, the winner of the tournament gets to be at home in the region tournament, right? So they do have that to play for. Usually in the region game we win both, but you would like to be at home instead of on the road. So they've got that to play for, bragging rights. But, yes, they can totally do it. They're a very talented team.
And then your region championship game decides whether or not sectionals are on the road
That's right.
or at home. Independence, another team right now playing really, really well. They've won 4 in a row. They beat CPA 9-2 at Spring Hill today. This week, like you're talking about, Spring Hill was ranked number third in the country. And that's a pretty tall list in order to be in right there. Number 3, like you said, their streak was broken. Don't know whether they fall up or down in that list. an interesting note, next year they will be a part of 11 AAA.
Well, and if they do fall, they shouldn't fall very far because CPA is a good baseball team too. And it was interesting. They had won 46 in a row. The last team to beat them was CPA last year. So, and again, Independence goes, and I believe beat them 9-2. Yeah, 9-2. So that just goes to show you.
It'd be interesting measuring up to watch them play Spring Hill this week to see, are we throwing our ones? Or how much of this game is really a game that we really want to win, or is it just, hey, we're going to kind of be passive and say whatever, we're not necessarily mailing it in, but I'm curious. I know that those coaches are both wanting to prove a point.
You're right, and that's the tough thing. You mentioned you've got district tournament coming up Saturday, so that's what really matters. But both these guys want to win. They're throw out the fact that they're both quality baseball programs and Spring Hill ranked in the top 10, but they're right there next to each other. They border each other, so it'll be interesting to see. What we do know is this: if Spring Hill doesn't throw one of their ones or their number one or their number two, Independence bats are going to be the same, and that's kind of where their strength. I mean, you see the CPA score 9-2. When they're on, they score a lot of runs. They've scored probably over half their games 7 to 9 runs or more. So my guess is if Spring Hill doesn't throw one of their top 2 pitchers, I don't think that's good for Spring Hill because the bats are going to be the same for Independence.
Hot bats, Lofton, Cotton. Right now, wanting to get those bats back. Coach Whipple and the Rebels kind of struggling. The bats have been cool for those guys right now. They run into a buzzsaw with Independence last week. Don't sleep on this group just yet. 12-16, 6-12 in district play. If they ever get that thing going, as well as I know Cotton can hit it, as well as the rest of that lineup. Franklin Rebels could pose a problem for somebody.
Yeah, they proved that in the middle of the year. So, and that's why we talk about it all the time. Just like in basketball, this is a sport with a couple of different seasons, and now we're in tournament season. So all that doesn't really matter if you can get it going again, and they've proven that they can do it. So, I would like to see this team have success. Coach Whipple's one of the good guys, works hard at it, and so if they can get those guys all swinging on the same page, they can dang sure make some noise in this tournament.
Absolutely. Old Sparty, Summit, 17-11, 10-8, have won 3 of the last 5, lost to Ravenwood 4-2. However, Siegel, Nolensville left. Can Coach Kirby mount a comeback right here? Not necessarily a comeback, but can he get those guys ready for this tournament and vie for that second spot behind Brentwood?
Sure. They've got the pitching to do it. They've got the bats to do it. And there's no doubt he knows how to do it, but he's not throwing. He's not playing defense, and he's not swinging the bat. So absolutely they can. And these guys have been there before, but I think it's going to have to come from somewhere in that locker room, somewhere in that dugout. That's where that's going to come from. The ability is there. The talent's there to do it. And they've had some good wins. You don't win 17 games with the schedule they played by not playing some really good baseball. So you mentioned the Ravenwood loss. That's what's just going to be so interesting about it. I mean, we know Ravenwood's going to play well come tournament time. And so really, I think a lot of this will come down to matchups in the tournament.
Well, you got to think. I know that a lot of those 11 losses that Old Sparty has could have gone either way. Maybe a come from behind victory for somebody else, or maybe an error here. I know they've kind of been trying to tighten up those particulars, like those specifics of let's clean the errors up, let's clean that stuff up. And if they get that right, they can make a run just like they did last year. I mean, it's like you said, they have the arms, they've got the opportunity, they've got the athletes to get there. Ravenwood, Mr. October, as you like to call him. Mr. May, same thing.
Right, yeah.
You get the point.
Yes.
Teddy Craig, Ravenwood's 13-15, 8-10. They've inched their way back to 500, trying to get in that realm. They have Station Camp left. Can they mount a comeback?
Sure, they did it last year. I mean, it's what they do. I mean, he's going to have them ready come tournament time, and they got Denton, they've got his son. They've got Coach Craig's son, the Sells youngster. They've got talent, and it's just history says they're going to make a run in the tournament. They did it last year. I believe they were a 6th seed last year, and they ended up making it. So without a doubt, they can do it. It's not a matter of can they do it. It's will they do it.
So let's look at the first round potential matchups right now. Brentwood obviously gets the bye. Indy versus Dixon County. Summit versus Franklin, and Centennial Ravenwood go head-to-head there, which that 4-5 game is very – you want to talk about meat grinder right there. Those are two teams vying right now that have an opportunity. We both talk extensively about those. You want to make a prediction?
Sure.
Centennial Ravenwood.
I'm going with Centennial.
I do not disagree with you right now in that first-round matchup. I'm assuming, don't know, Billy Krager could be pitcher coming off
well,
the
this is do or die, right? This round, so
who's going to move on?
Yeah, I'm going with Centennial. You got to think Krager's going to be on the mound.
All right, so then you look at Summit Franklin.
Same thing. You got to think the big man's going to be on the mound, so I'm going with Summit.
I would agree with that. Indy Dixon. Dixon, thank you for coming. Bless your heart. I know that you love to be a part of 11 AAA. Could be dangerous any day, not in this particular matchup.
I wouldn't think so. I think Indy's playing really well. They're the better team. Coach McClory will have them ready. So, yes, I'm going with Independence Eagles.
All right. So that's our predictions. We are experts at this at the first round. I'm sure we'll hear about this, how this goes out, how this plays out. Fairview right now currently 8th and 11 AA. They still have a few games to go, 2 and 4 in play in district play there. Page 9 and 18. They did get a good. Page had a couple of wins here closing out. They have Forest left, who's a perennial, really good baseball team on the single A level. Yes. Lawrence County left. Currently 5th and 12 AA. Coach Roten and the Page Patriots, can they make a little noise here in tournament time?
Yes, 5th and 12 AA, but those are some really good teams. And the top two are
Spring Hill, CPA.
Yeah, 2 of the best in the state.
Right.
Any division. So, they can make a run, and they're playing better. So, right, this is the time you want to start playing better. And they came so close last year. So they have the talent to do it, but there's going to be some tough games that they're going to have to win. But, yes, they can do it.
Coach Hudson and the Nolensville Knights still looking for their first 12 AA victory. That's not, like you said, that's not an easy district to attempt to get a district win.
But what's amazing about it, his 2 wins are against Forest and Overton. I mean, those are quality programs. So.
Softball, Brentwood right now sitting in first place, 28 and 2, 8 and 2. They're looking pretty good, the Lady Bruins are.
Yeah, they are, and the number one thing they can do is they can swing the bat. Hannah Koning, I know she's got at least 1 Grand Slam, maybe more than that. She's got to be in double digits in homers, and so, yes, they felt like this was the year they could take the step forward and maybe jump to first place in this district region, and it looks like that's how it's going to finish out. But yes, they're playing really well, and I mean they've hit a lot of home runs this year. And
in second place, Summit 17 and 9, 9 and 2. You cannot speak enough volumes about where that program is right now.
Right, and so that's what's tough about it. Coach Powell's in her second year, and she's got them up to 20 wins, and so you see what they've done there. So it's hard to say this. How could anybody have done a better job than her? But then you look at what Coach Stevenson's done. 17 wins at Summit. That's never happened in softball, and it's sitting there at 17 and 9. They're 9 and 2. Have a chance to get a tie for first. I don't think that's the way it'll shake out because I don't know that. I think Brentwood will finish this thing off pretty strong. But to even be in that conversation, that's huge. Great job.
Dixon County is currently in third right now. Ravenwood, still some games to go there, but I think Ravenwood's going to have an opportunity to jump them and get into that third slot.
Right. They're a lot like in baseball. You look at their record, they're right. But they've had some big wins, and they've won some games that you wouldn't have thought they'd win, and they've lost some games that you wouldn't have thought they lost. And they're another one. When they get hot from the plate, they can score runs as well. Independence
Lady Eagles, 9-13 and 1-4-5, sitting in 5th place right now. Had a really good game against Dixon last week, came up a little bit short. Dixon kind of finding their mojo here towards the end of the season. Could they put a run together? I mean, obviously they have been the team to beat in 11 AAA right now. Brentwood Summit obviously have put it hurting on them, but can Dixon get hot at that time and pose problems for all WCS Sports Conference teams?
You would think so. They replaced, so much of their team from last year, and we know what a run that senior class went on. So, now they're towards the end of the season. We have a lot of people that are for Dixon that are playing this year that didn't get to play much for the last 4 years. So without a doubt, you can tell it's starting to click a little bit. That's one of the truly great softball programs in the state. So, yes, they can. I think they're still outmanned by, Brentwood and Summit and probably even Ravenwood once you get to the tournament. So, it's going to be tough, but, yeah, they can. They're young, but they're playing better.
Franklin right now in 6th place, and Centennial rounds out the District 11 AAA group at 7. We'll get you the tournament information when that comes out with the brackets and those matchups. Should be a great tournament. Interesting to see. I'd love to see that 1-2 showdown one more time to see Brentwood and Summit, see how that plays
Yes.
out. Page right now. Don't sleep on the Lady Patriots over there in 12AA. They're sitting in 2nd place, 14-8-1 and 7-3 in district play.
Yes, and it's played a tough schedule. So, they're going into it seeded 2nd. They absolutely could do it. Cascade is a very good softball program. But, they got a chance to make it to Murfreesboro.
Lady Knights of Nolensville, 3-4 in district play. Overall, 2-4 in district play. They're sitting in 7th in 12AA. It's not bad for the Lady Knights. First year coming out, got them a couple district wins. I mean, let's talk about that for just a moment. Everything across the board, Nolensville is in this build mode. If they've kind of seen success, and I would view this as success right now, to win some games in there with basically a JV team,
Right.
beating varsity teams. Imagine what the future holds in 2 years from now.
Sure, without a doubt. They're fine. And this has been one of the more successful programs record-wise that they've had. I would say softball and soccer have probably had the best district years of any of the sports.
Well, that is our spring roundup right now. Let's get into spring football. A lot of people wanting to know. Buzz is already surrounding the football season, and we're roughly still 6 months away.
Right.
But you know and I know how popular and how on demand these things are. There's a lot of workouts happening, a lot of camps going on, a lot of 7-7 stuff. All these offers are coming out from these major universities. I did see today that Jake Ray got an offer from Florida, University
Wow.
of Florida, just another one added to that list. Obviously, older brother Max Ray at Franklin High School committing to the Ohio State University. But let's start right now. Independence High School's Coach Scott Blade, what can we expect from the Blade Runner and the Independence Eagles?
Well, what a run they've been on the past 2 years. And so here they are, the 3rd year in a row. I guess the 2nd year in a row. The number one question going into spring practices is who's going to be the quarterback. He feels like, Nathan Sisko is the guy who's up for that job. And that's a big question. Is he ready to take the reins of quarterback? I do know that the very first week that they've had last week, Coach Blade was very, very impressed with the way he handled spring practice, ran spring practice, and he throws the ball well, which that's not to be funny, but that's one of his strong suits. So as we know, there's going to be some good receivers on that team, right? Especially the guys outside. So if he can throw the ball well, then if he can get the offense down, which that's one of the things Coach Blade does. He does a lot of things well, but one thing he really does is able to mold quarterbacks. And so if he can handle this system, if he can read it, he got a chance to be the next quarterback in line to just have a great season because the weapons are there. Obviously, the system is there. So Nathan Sisko, can he take the reins at quarterback? First week, very encouraging. I know he was very pleased with him. And he's not always real easy on his quarterback. So if he was pleased with it, he must have had a good first week.
And who are his main targets?
Well, there's a young man by the name of Kendrell Scurry.
Not too bad.
Not too bad.
6'4".
TJ Sheffield.
Not too bad.
That's right. And
Both.
TJ is running track and having a really good track season, but he's coming after track practice. He comes over and practices, so he's getting to be there. That's really neat. If Hines was coming back, or if you got a bunch coming back, it's not that big of a deal if he's not being able to throw to his main targets. As I know you've mentioned before, if you've ever been to a practice, so much of what they do is timing. It's great that Sisko's being able to throw to Sheffield and Scurry and the other guys as well, but them getting to get work in together is huge. And and remember, both Scurry and Sheffield were sophomores last year. So
both are UT commits currently right
Right.
now. I'm not sure that will ever stick. Love to see it stick,
Might.
but not sure how long that will go because the offers will flood in on both those guys now, and two totally different guys. I mean, you've got one 6'4", go up and get the ball, and you've got a Sheffield that's probably maybe 6 foot, but can absolutely fly. So you've got two different dynamics there. And then who do you have in the backfield?
Troy Henderson,
And what can he do?
he can fly, he can float.
So we've got 3 skill positions, 3 weapons to choose from.
Right.
If the quarterback position can come together for Coach Blade offensively, they can be just as good
Sure.
as what they were last year. Now,
Maybe even more,
Obviously, Landon Gidry being gone
Right.
throws a little bit a wrinkle in there because he liked to throw wrinkles in there with the Wildcat formation and move Landon around in different places, maybe in the slot or whatnot. But you've got two guys on the outside. You could probably line Troy up on the slot if you need to, right?
Sure. Yeah, or I think he'll be the running back, but maybe Sheffield. I don't think Scurry will ever be a slot guy.
Right,
Maybe, but
right.
Sheffield would be one that you could put there.
Sure.
I mean,
Just like his older brother.
Yeah, I mean, right, Nate, and you create a lot of matchup problems with him there. So, but then you mentioned it. That's the other question coming out of they got to replace some linemen, especially on the defensive side. And as big of a leader as Hines was on the offensive side, David Demke was such a leader on the one. He was a great player on the defensive line, but he was also really one of the leaders of that team, especially on the defense. So you have to replace him. You have to replace Weathers. I got to replace a linebacker here.
Hunter Dupree,
who was another great competitor. Great. So they've got some holes, but they've got people waiting. And that's the other great thing we talked about before is if you're not in it, you don't know. You play 10 regular season games. Well, they have played another 10 regular seasons. Another 10 games in the playoffs because they made it to the state championship game both. So these freshmen, these sophomore, the freshmen that come up, these sophomores, these juniors, they've played 3 seasons in 2. That's 10 more. That's a whole nother season of practices. You see what I'm saying? Building depth. I think that's the biggest advantage that comes out of making those late playoff runs is, they've got all those weeks of practices where they might not have played in those games, but they were working against those guys. That's huge for providing depth and building depth and having a good feel about what you know about your team going into spring practice.
Well, one thing is lineman-wise, Kelly Myers, line coach, son Bo Myers, going to be a Hall.
Larry, sure.
He's got some offers kind of floating right now, kind of working towards some things, Sanford being one. I think that he'll, get some toughness. He'll be ready to go on that line, be a big staple in that line. Now let's talk real quick. 5A versus 6A. Now I understand that 6A, yes, 6A is a higher up classification, but they basically run a have been running a 6A schedule from here, so you don't see that being any different.
No.
You
look last year. I'm the moron that picked them to lose to Smyrna. And
Coach Brady did pick.
We know how that turned out. So, and Smyrna's a pretty good 6A team. So.
Well, you got to think though. Here we are. All these teams going to be vying for 4 spots. We mentioned this last week. Somebody's going to be on the outside looking in. I'm going to go out on a limb and say that Independence is not on the outside looking in.
You wouldn't think so. And you hate to say it about a team that just went 29-1, but they had it. They had that second straight state championship was in their grasp. It was literally one series away from maybe slamming the door. So is there that unfinished business? It's not going to be hard. Sometimes when you win that many games, it's hard to get them to listen. I don't think he's going to have that problem this spring and going into next season.
You make a great point, and I'm going to reference Greg Glass with this. You said unfinished business. Greg Glass has a tremendous lineup last year, 2 years ago. A better lineup, and this is no offense to the lineup this year, a better lineup than probably we had this year. Unfinished business. I'm thinking in my head, it's going to be tough to bounce back from that sub-state loss the way they happened against Station Camp. And getting to the state tournament is a long shot. Now, fast forward to the fact that we're looking in January, they lose 7 in a row, and we're like, there's no way. And then what happens? They buy into the fact that we've got to do what, sell out on everything. Let's do it. Unfinished business. They buy into that theory. Boom. They get themselves into the state semi-championship game. This group, I have struggles in my mind thinking kids are going to have a hard time bouncing back from that loss at the end of the year. And you know why? Because they're bouncing back to 6A, which you've already established is no big deal. Number 2, their opening game is against Oakland. If they were to lose that game mentally, can we bounce back and still continue what we need to do?
I think so, sure.
And I think, if I'm not mistaken, either CPA or somebody else is also, I think CPA is also in that schedule somewhere down the line.
Yep.
Not as big a concern to me as Oakland is.
Kind of hard when you're 29-1. The phone calls for out of district games, not a whole lot of people lining up to play.
So Independence, it's going to be fun to watch that. Old Sparty Summit started their spring camp as well. What do we know about Coach Coleman and Summit?
Well, we know this. What's a good thing? Ty Carter's back. All right, that's big. Okay. Bad thing, they lost Dalton Fisher, Peyton Craig, Tyler Palmer. I did a little research for the show today, Dr. Qualls. You're going to like this. As we know, Summit's a wing T team. They're going to run the ball. That's what they hang their hat on. Last year, they rushed for 3,496 rushing yards. Dalton Fisher accounted for 898. Peyton Craig, 361. Tyler Palmer, 731. So they have to replace 1,990 of their 3,496 rushing yards. So what does that mean? They got to find about 3 more backs to go in there and fill in with Ty. The good thing is, first 1,000-yard rusher in school history is back. They're a game breaker, and he's going to be even better next year. So they've got some young men that do it, but there's 3 spots open. That's the neat thing about this offense. You don't have one guy touching the ball 40, 50 times a game, right? Everybody's going to get touches. So there's 3 spots open, and they're very important, but they've got some young guys that they feel like can step up to it. They lose Michael Zakreski, their quarterback, Ethan Cash.
Not Blake Money, but Ethan Cash.
Ethan Cash has a chance. He hasn't done it yet. He has a chance to sew that up. And he brings a little bit more athleticism to it. But one thing I hope people don't lose sight of, Michael Zakreski, he was only throwing the ball 3-4 times a game. But when he did, he was completing either all of them or, 75% of them, and he was a great game manager. He didn't turn the ball over much. And in this offense, that's what you want. So, I hope people understand that he was very valuable to this team. Those are big holes to fill.
They are, but Old Sparty's going to be on the 5A level. They're not moving up to 6A. They're still in that 5A level in a very favorable region. I'm telling you, I'm confident. Top 2 spots, one of those is going to Summit.
I would think so. Well, they've been building this thing up the right way. Last year, I forgot about it until we start talking about it. They make it to the first round of the playoffs, and they probably get the worst draw of anybody in the county, and they get Cane Ridge. Heck, they're up 21-0 at halftime. And that was a dang good Cane Ridge team. So they were that close.
Coach Coleman, appreciate you ripping that scale off.
He's the one that reminded me of it.
It is part of it. You're literally a half away from advancing.
Shoot, maybe a quarter.
So they have an opportunity. Yeah, you're right. They have an opportunity there. Maybe next week we can continue on spring football. We'll talk about Ravenwood. We'll talk about Nolensville. We'll talk about Page and Fairview. Thank you for joining us for this week's edition of WCS Sports Connection. We'll see you next time.
You're always trying to keep your kids safe, right? What about preventing concussion? Concussion can happen anywhere, on a sports field, at the park, even at home. So you need to know the ABCs. Assess the situation, be alert for signs and symptoms, and contact a healthcare professional. Most kids recover completely, but seek care to help them get better faster. To learn more, go to cdc.gov/concussion. Keep kids safe. It's as simple as ABC.
For the #1 ranked Cowboy in the Southeastern Circuit today, Letras, come on Cowboys, get you some.
It's a small town, throwdowns, time to tomboy up, let them tailgates down.
Randy Walcott, here we go. Come on, buddy, from a family of pro rodeo entertainers. Yeah, buddy. Last weekend, one more time, talk to her, bring her home. 89 points! Oh, Dave, don't let him in. He's not